Hey, hi guys. Today we are back with a new video for our system design playlist series. So in the last video we had discussed about a system design use case where we had discussed about different architecture components also. So what we have done in this video is we have picked one of those architecture components and just went deep into that, and we'll try and explain that component on the very high level today, and you will understand the context of that component and why it is needed also. If you haven't watched our previous video, please navigate to our system design playlist series and do watch that video as well. I will attach that link in the description also so that you can find it easily as well. So let's jump on to today's content. So today's content is about security primarily, and we're gonna talking about DMZ, firewall, private systems, and all that. So let me go back to the previous design that we had discussed in our previous video. So this was the design that we had discussed. So you can watch our previous video to see in detail what all these components were and what is the use of each of these components. So in today's video, we're gonna talk about DMZ layer. So DMZ layer is nothing but a demilitarized layer. So we're gonna break that down and see what all things comes inside that and why it is needed. So first of all, we need to understand what is DMZ. So DMZ is demilitarized layer, as I explained, as I told earlier. So it is a layer, or it is actually a zone which sits between your public traffic which is coming from the internet, let's say any user who is browsing your website, and your private systems where your backend servers, your databases, or any secure storage is lying. So that is your private system. So anything which sits between your public internet facing users or the traffic and between your private systems, that is the demilitarized layer. Now there can be multiple things in the demilitarized layer, not only one. Now, by listening to this definition, you might have certain questions in mind. I'll try and explain all of them in next few minutes. But in case something is unanswered, you can post your comment or post your question in the chat also. So let's look at the things one by one. Now let's say you are hosting a web application. Now this web application for any industry, it can be for insurance, banking, e-commerce, or any other sorts of industry that you can think of. Now for this kind of use case, you will have a website, and that website will have a web address which will have a website, and that will connect to some databases or APIs or whatever. So there will be a lot of things. Now, as you can see, there are a lot of attacks happening in these days on different websites based on their data getting stolen as well, and their connectivity and their web servers are also getting compromised. So let's talk about all these things. So first of all, when we type any website or I would say web address, so there is different levels of security happening for different layers of our web application. Now, when we talk of a web application as an architect, there are different layers. If we talk of when we are building a web application, so first is your web server, then is your backend servers, your databases, your load balancers, your gateways, security layers, firewalls, and all those things. But how those are structured, how they are talking to each other to make it a flow, ideally. Now, the firewall is the first thing that gets executed first, as I have highlighted this in this image, which actually verifies the malicious content, and which verifies the malicious incoming traffic which is coming from let's say some wrong IP address or some of the malicious IP addresses from where we want to restrict the traffic coming from. So that is done by the firewall, because firewall works on the network level. It basically protects your entire infrastructure on the network level, which works on the layer 3 and layer 4 of our OSI model. If it passes the firewall layer, it goes to our DMZ layer. In DMZ layer, there are different services, or there are different things happening. One is your DNS server, then is your web server, email server, FTPs, and your VoIP servers, your web application firewalls, your reverse proxy. So a lot of things are there in the DMZ, because those sits between the external or the internet facing traffic and your private data centers or your private I would say repositories like backend services, databases, or some secure data storage systems. Now you may have heard about web servers, how those work, reverse proxies and all those things. Now once your traffic goes through the firewall, it goes to a web server. Web server is nothing but your static content of your website, which is hosted and which user sees uh, on the browser when it navigates to an application. Let's say I type google.com. Now when I type google.com, so it basically goes to a web server, which is nothing but this one, or let's say this one. So this is a reverse proxy for your information. This is a reverse proxy sign, and this is the web server. Now you can have, if the traffic is quite huge on your website and you want to install reverse proxy, that is up to you. You can install a reverse proxy server which will redirect your traffic to different web servers hosted. Okay, now reverse proxies are also another thing which you may have to explore in detail, but I can explain in brief. Now once the traffic goes from firewall, it comes to reverse proxy. Reverse proxy can add the layer 7 level security also. Well, now what is layer 7 level security? It is the web application firewall. It detects different layers of different security flaws in the incoming requests which are coming. For example, it can detect your SQL injection, XXS, cross-site scripting, and all related attacks. It can be detected in the web application firewall. So if you have a use case where we talked about a mobile banking application in the last series or in the last playlist video, so there we talked about a mobile banking application. So if you have such a use case where you are exposing a critical application on the internet, it is better to have a web application firewall as along with firewall as well. So this will have provide additional security to your web servers. Now the next thing is we have kept mail servers also, and FTPs and DNS services also in the DMZ zone, because sometimes what happens is sometimes the company says we have this email, you can send an email to this email address and we can respond you back. So those are the public facing email services. So there we need to expose them to the DMZ so that people can send the emails to those servers also. So that's where the email services also can stay in the DMZ as well. Then FTPs, DNS services to do the routing from where the traffic is coming, it is routed to nearby servers or not. So all those things will happen in the DNS services. So these all services, I've just taken the examples. These all services are part of DMZ, which sits between external incoming traffic and your private data centers. Now, once your application or once your request goes through all of these services and the flows, it has to now talk to your backend system to fetch the data or maybe to do any such operations. Now there also you can add a new firewall which will filter out your requests which are coming from your web application and going to your backend private system as well. Now this is an optional thing. Now you can, if you have employed the firewall 1 over here, you need not to have firewall 2 in all the cases. But if you want more potent security, if you have a, I would say as an architect, you need to think about cost and the risk trade-off. So if you have a critical application which has a critical data and it has not to be exposed quite significantly, or you want to make it more secured as well on in terms of the incoming traffic on different level of OSI models, so you want to make them secure as well. So then in that case you can have two firewalls as well. Now where you have one firewall, that is a single walled firewall architecture. Where you have double firewalls, it is actually a double walled firewall architecture. It depends on how, as I explained, it depends on your risk and cost trade-off. So like which kind of architecture you want in terms of firewall security. But when you have one firewall, it is quite easy for the attackers to bypass your DMZ and the backend system at the same time, because when you talk of one firewall, your one firewall, if it is exposed or compromised, then it can expose both of your networks, which is in or both of your system, which is in DMZ and which is in your private system. Whereas if you have employed the firewall on both the sides, then it is having very less chances or almost negligible chances of exposing the internal security. Employing the firewall is not the only silver bullet that will help secure your system. You need to define proper firewall rules and the policies so that it restricts the traffic as and when needed. So if you like in such a global situations today where we are having cyber attacks as well, which are quite frequent these days, so there the rise of firewall or the use of a firewall is more critical to restrict the traffic which is coming from different networks. So that's where we need to think whenever we are architecting an application, or whenever we are, let's say, updating an existing application which demands security as well. So then we need to think of firewalls as a pretty serious, I would say, component in our architecture. Now there are some private systems I've kept here, like these are the generic database servers, and then you have your generic web servers also. So now your firewall, the request from the web servers or the DMZ zones will go to the backend system via the firewall as well. So this is a kind of a basic flow that will happen, and where you can talk to your different systems, where users can talk to your different systems via different security level of in your architecture. Now in the next video, what I'm going to talk about is maybe Kubernetes also. We are planning to have a playlist where we're going to talk about security and how the layered architecture will work in the Kubernetes level, like how you can have the web servers, how you can have your backend servers, how you can expose them, secure them, and all those things. So this thing also we are planning in one of our upcoming videos. Apart from that, we have another playlist on which is going on agentic and A2A and MCP servers. So there also we're gonna publish a new video around some of the use cases on A2A, and maybe a practical example also if possible in upcoming videos. So we are publishing or creating different content for our users. So do watch our content. If you like it, please do share it as well and like the videos, and do subscribe to our channel also, so it will do a great help to us. So thanks a lot for your time. Thanks a lot for watching the video. Thank you.